Bond here for Dr. Pennsylvania. Today's past periodical comes from the Johnstown Weekly Democrat, July 26, 1889. And we feel it bears mentioning that on May 31st, 1889, just, 2 months before this, was the Great Johnstown Flood. And about half of the front page of this newspaper is taken up with a listing of articles found in the bodies of the dead, of them still trying to identify them. So hoping that the relatives will see these artifacts and be able to come and claim their loved ones. But today's article is of a different matter. This one is titled, Somerset Tragedy, a young Pittsburgher murdered by a drunken cook.
Somerset Tragedy, a young Pittsburgher murdered by a drunken cook. The victim, a son of John Scott of Pittsburgh. Scene of the horrible affair near Confluence. Pleasure turned to mourning. The murderer taken to Somerset Jail. Charles Scott, son of John Scott, the stone contractor of Pittsburgh, was shot and instantly killed Sunday by James Lair of Allegheny. The shooting took place at the camp of the Eureka Fishing Club of Allegheny near Confluence, near the Ohiopyle Falls on the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. The body of young Scott was taken to Pittsburgh yesterday morning, accompanied by his companions who had gone to the camp with him on Saturday, and it now lies at Moreland's undertaking rooms. The funeral will take place from the residence of his father, John Scott, on Stanton Avenue, East End, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Gus Straub, an eyewitness to the tragedy, describes it as follows. Quote, Saturday night, young Scott, William Marshall, Thomas Nesbitt, Mr. Eichenlaub, Charles Kurtz, and myself went to the camp as guests of the Eureka Club. We had a most pleasant visit until Sunday afternoon. Mr. Scott and I had been up in the woods near the camp and came back around 4 o'clock. Some of the boys told us they had been having some trouble with Lair, the cook. He had been drinking heavily, and Harry Knorr, one of the members of the club, told him he could have no more liquor. Lair chased him from the camp with a revolver in his hand, but finally came back. While he was gone, Mr. Kurtz knocked the spigot out of the beer keg and let it run in order to prevent Lair from getting any more. Lair then made for Kurtz, revolver in hand, but did not shoot. He was in terrible anger and threatened and swore around for a long time, to the terror of all in camp. Up to this time, Lair had not said a word to Scott or Scott to him. Finally, around 5 o'clock, some of the members of the club said to us that there was not much chance for supper the way Lair was acting, that we had better go to Confluence for supper. To this we agreed and all started from camp. Scott was the last one to leave the camp. He was about 100 yards behind me and was standing in the door of a tent. He called for me to come and wait and started toward me. He had come about 10 yards when Lair came toward him and called him a vile name, said, "Where are you going? You come back here." Scott faced him and said, "I am going to Confluence." "No, you are not," said Lair, and he pulled out his revolver, and, as Scott moved away sideways, fired a shot at him. Scott then moved away further, but all the time keeping his eyes on him, when Lair fired again. Then Scott fired a shot from a little revolver he had. I called to him to run, and he turned to do so when Lair fired again. The bullet struck Scott in the back. He fell and never spoke a word, dying instantly. Some of the boys hurried to Confluence, and the magistrate and a constable at once went to the camp. When they got near, Laird pulled his revolver again, but the boys persuaded him to put it up. He did so, and he was arrested and taken to Somerset, where he is in jail. The magistrate held an inquest, and 14 witnesses told the same story I am telling you. There had been no fuss of any kind between Scott and Lair, and the shooting was entirely unprovoked. Lair was the only man in the camp who was in the least affected by liquor, and I would not have anyone think for a moment that liquor had anything to do with the fuss, as far as Scott or anyone but Lair was concerned. I knew that Scott had not had a drink since 11 o'clock in the morning, and all day he did not drink over 2 or 3 glasses. Scott happened to be the last man to leave camp, and I believe it would have been the same had I or anyone else been the last man. Lair was in an ugly mood and seemed determined to pick a fight with someone. He was fussing all the afternoon and became almost crazy with anger when Kurt knocked the spigot out of the beer keg. There were 6 shots fired, 4 by Lair and I think 2 by Scott. But as far as I can tell, Scott fired in the air, and after Scott fell, Lair fired another shot. From where Lair fired to where Scott stood was about 120 yards, and that is the aim should have been so true is a marvel to me." End quote. Charles Scott, the victim of the shooting, is the son of John Scott, the well-known Pittsburgh stone contractor. He has a brother in the firm of Vincent and Scott, the East End carpet dealers, in whose store he worked, and also a brother in the firm of Scott and McLean. He was about 21 years old and unmarried.